The multimillionaire had just told the waitress she was wasting her life, when she answered him in flawless French. He stopped with his glass halfway to his lips. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you're watching from and leave your country or city in the comments. And if you love stories about secrets, second chances, unexpected twists, and people getting exactly what they deserve, subscribe and stay with us. The restaurant was the kind of place where nobody asked about the price of dinner. Black cars waited outside, crystal chandeliers hung above white linen tables, and a bottle of wine could cost more than a teacher's monthly salary. That was where Daniel Whitmore, a 48-year-old technology investor worth nearly $200 million, sat across from his business partners. And that was where Elena Marquez worked. She was 29, quiet, observant, and always carried a small black notebook in her apron pocket. Daniel noticed the notebook when she placed his coffee beside him. "You study?" he asked. "Sometimes." "What?" "Whatever I'm interested in." He smiled as though he had just discovered something amusing. "That's vague." "So is sometimes." One of his partners laughed. Daniel looked at her again. There was no attitude in her voice. Just calm confidence. "What did you study?" Elena hesitated. "Linguistics." "At university?" "Yes." "Bachelor's?" "Doctorate." The laughter disappeared. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You have a doctorate and you're serving coffee?" Elena simply nodded. "That seems like an expensive way to become a waitress." She looked at him for a moment. "It wasn't the degree that brought me here." Daniel leaned back. "Then what did?" "My choice." She walked away before he could answer. For some reason, that irritated him more than an argument would have. Later that evening, one of Daniel's partners received an urgent call from Paris. The conversation became complicated, and the partner struggled to explain a contractual issue. Elena was passing the table when she heard him speaking. Without thinking, she quietly translated a sentence from the French document lying beside his plate. The partner stared at her. "You speak French?" "Yes." "How well?" "Fluently." Daniel looked up. "Anything else?" "Spanish." "Italian." "Portuguese." His smile faded. "You speak 4 languages?" "Yes." One partner jokingly asked her something in Italian. She answered immediately. Then Portuguese. Then Spanish. Each response was natural, effortless. The table went silent. Daniel stared at her as though she had suddenly become a completely different person. "Why are you working here?" he finally asked. Elena's expression changed. "Because I need the job." "Your doctorate doesn't qualify you for something better?" "It qualifies me for many things." "Then why this?" She placed a fresh cup of coffee in front of him. "Because sometimes a person needs money before they need a perfect career." That sentence stayed with him. The next morning, Daniel returned to the restaurant alone. He told himself it was because the coffee was good. It wasn't. He wanted answers. Elena was cleaning a table when he approached. "I owe you an apology." She looked surprised. "For what?" "For assuming I knew what your life should look like." She smiled faintly. "Apology accepted." Daniel sat down. "Now tell me the truth. Why did you leave academia?" Elena stopped wiping the table. "My father got sick." Daniel said nothing. He had spent years working 2 jobs so I could study. When he became ill, there were bills. Rent. Medicine. I took a temporary job here. And the university? I kept applying for positions. Nothing? Several offers. That sounds good. They were in other countries. Daniel understood. She had stayed because her father needed her. What happened to him? He died 11 months ago. For the first time since Daniel had met her, she looked away. I'm sorry. Thank you. Daniel stood. Can I help? Elena shook her head. I don't need rescuing. The words landed harder than he expected. 3 weeks later, Daniel's company faced a crisis. A European acquisition was collapsing because of a dispute between American executives and a Portuguese-owned company. Lawyers had been working for days, but a mistranslated clause had created a massive financial problem. Daniel remembered Elena. He found her at the restaurant after closing. Can you look at something? She read the document for several minutes. Then she frowned. This translation is wrong. Daniel's attorney had translated it. What's wrong? This word doesn't mean exclusive ownership. In this context, it means exclusive management rights. That changes the entire agreement. Daniel stared at her. Are you sure? Yes. He called his lawyer. Within 20 minutes, the lawyer confirmed Elena was right. The deal was saved. But Elena didn't celebrate. Instead, she asked Daniel one question. Do you know who translated the original document? Yes. Then you should ask why. The next day, Daniel discovered the mistranslation hadn't been accidental. A senior executive had deliberately altered the wording to make the acquisition appear more expensive and forced Daniel to abandon the deal. The person responsible was removed from the company. Daniel could have simply thanked Elena. Instead, he offered her a position. Head of International Communications, he said. Your salary would be more than you make here in a year. Elena looked at the contract. Then she pushed it back. No. Daniel blinked. No? I don't want a job because you feel sorry for me. I don't. Then why? Because you saved my company. She studied him. And if I fail? You won't. That isn't an answer. Daniel smiled. Then if you fail, I'll still respect you. That was the first time she accepted something from him. Not charity. Not pity. Respect. A year later, Elena had transformed the company's international division. She negotiated contracts, trained executives, and became known for catching details that expensive consultants missed. But Daniel noticed something else. She had become less guarded. One evening, after a long meeting, he found her standing alone beside the office window. You know, he said, I used to think success meant having enough money that nobody could tell you no. Elena smiled. And now? Now I think success might mean being able to hear no without becoming angry. She laughed. That sounds like progress. It is. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of her father. Elena froze. Where did you get this? I found it in an old newspaper archive. He was being honored for community work when you were a child. Her eyes filled with tears. You didn't have to do this. I know. She looked at the photograph for a long moment. Then she whispered, thank you. Daniel nodded. The woman who once served him coffee had taught him something no business school ever had. A person's position was never the same thing as their worth. Months later, Daniel attended a major international conference in London. Elena stood beside him on stage, speaking to an audience of executives in 4 languages. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Daniel didn't clap immediately. He simply watched her. He remembered the first night, when he had looked at her apron and assumed he understood her life. He had been wrong. Not because she was secretly extraordinary. She had always been extraordinary. He had simply been too wealthy, too confident, and too busy judging people to notice. After the speech, Elena walked toward him. You're quiet, she said. Daniel smiled. I'm trying to find the right language. For what? To say thank you. She laughed softly. You only need one. What is it? Respect. Daniel nodded. And this time, when the woman who once served him coffee walked away, he didn't see a waitress with a doctorate. He saw the person who had reminded a very rich man of the one thing money could never buy, the wisdom to recognize another person's value before their circumstances made it obvious.